Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Out of the Groove Power Hour, presented by Circle B Diecast. Use code OOTG at circlebdiecast.com for discounted shipping. I am your host, Eric Estep, joined by NASCAR driver Brennan Poole. Brennan, this is our first show of the year. I was going to say in studio, but kind of like remote. This is our first traditional remote recording of the year. We've done the last two in person at racetracks, which has been pretty cool. But how you doing, Brennan? How you feeling this fine April afternoon?
I'm doing great. I had a great start to the year, so it's been awesome. And yeah, kind of exciting to be like back doing our normal deal in the studio, I guess, as we should say, our own individual studios together
Yes.
via the internet. But
Something
yeah,
like
no,
that.
I'm excited to be back and talk more and about all the stuff that's happened so far this year. And yeah, we've done the live shows. Shout out to everyone that made it to a live show this year. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Those have been a lot of fun, and hopefully you've been enjoying the videos, the live shows on the YouTubes. But yeah, I think it's been great.
It's been fun. Yeah, I've really been enjoying doing those live shows. Hopefully we'll get to do maybe another one of those or more later in the year or going forward. But this is nice because now, Brennan, if we make a mistake, I can cut and edit it and no one will ever know. So,
Yeah, you don't feel the pressure
I'm
now.
not sweating like I was at Phoenix and Daytona, but it is great to be here, and we always appreciate the support from Circle B Diecast, circlebdiecast.com. Brennan, we like to show off cars on this show. Now that we're back in studio, it's easier to do this. I picked this one up recently. It's a Ross Chastain signed Hail Melon car with the whole right side scraped up. I know. Pretty crazy, memorable moment, viral moment in the sport's modern history. It was pretty cool to have to get this and have it sitting on my shelf. A wild moment preserved now in miniature diecast form. Brendan, do you have a more modern or more a throwback car to show off today?
Yeah. I went with this one. This is the
Oh,
Jeff Gordon Foundation Speed Racer, the next generation
oh, that's
car. It's
cool.
also the like I guess the original COT with the wing on the back. I know so many of you guys love that so much, but I have so many of these cars. But yeah, a big Jeff Gordon fan. Also, we just came off their 40-year anniversary, right? Or
Hendrick
40, yeah.
Motorsports, yeah, it was all
So
Hendrick all the time at Martinsville this
all the
weekend.
red cars. So Jeff Gordon giving you a little honor here on Out of the Groove Power Hour and showing your speed racer car. I was a big speed racer fan as a kid growing up. I think
Enthusiast.
yeah, that's why I was number five for so long as a kid. So this car is really cool. I love anything speed racer, and obviously growing up big Jeff Gordon fan, so I've got a lot of his cars. But yeah, and it's awesome you have that you have the new yeah, Ross Chastain next gen car. We have like the original COT and then the new version. Of course, yours is a little bit more iconic and was in top 10 plays on ESPN. So pretty iconic car you got.
Yeah, it also is reminiscent of better Martinsville racing. Although I don't know, I mean, there's still the next gen racing at Martinsville, but a lot of talk this week
Mm.
about the short track package. We'll get to that later. That's not very exciting. One final plug, though. Thank you to Circle B Diecast. Again, use code OOTG at checkout to get discounted shipping. So really appreciate our friends over there. A lot of 2024 diecast and schemes, merchandise beginning to release. So be sure to check them out. Before we get into racing, Brennan, did you get to see any of the eclipse this past weekend? Because I was very lucky. I now live in Dallas, Texas. We were right in the path of the eclipse. I woke up this morning and noticed I have a slight sunburn. My glasses sort of cover it up, but I was staring in that sun for hours yesterday with the safety glasses on, thankfully. But that was a cool thing. I had no idea what to expect, but I have to say, getting to see a full-on solar eclipse was extremely memorable. Have you ever, I mean, I don't know from North Carolina how visible it was, but I know there was a
Yeah.
lot of weather also in the way for people.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the one and went to the totality zone when it came across in 2017. I think
All
I
right,
went to
cool.
Columbia
Nice.
and went and saw that. So I had the glasses and did all the thing looking at it, and it was pretty gnarly. Very cool thing to
Yeah.
experience. What was weird for me is like when it happened, like all the bugs and the noises, like when it gets dark, they start like coming out and making sounds, and then like the sun comes back, and it's gone pretty quickly, but it is definitely, I feel like it's an experience. Here, it just, it wasn't cloudy. We had pretty good weather, but it just kind of got like somewhat dark
Dim,
outside, but it
yeah.
wasn't like fully dark yet. And so it looks kind of weird outside for an extended period of time as it makes its way across, but it doesn't like totally get dark. It's just like almost like it's a rainy day outside, but
Yeah.
there was not a cloud in the sky really. So it's always cool. Any of those space stuff or anything like that that happens, like I'm
Yeah.
all in on that stuff. I just think it's so cool and so fascinating. So always a fun experience, and I'm glad I got to do it. And see, now you've got to do it. So
I
shared experiences. If anyone's been through an eclipse, we all have something in common now.
Yeah, I remember seeing videos of the one in 2017, and so I didn't know that when I moved here to Dallas. But when I found out we were in the path of this one, I was super excited. Just fingers crossed the weather held up. It was a cool experience. When it went dark for us, there was a bat immediately went flying away, and I was like, that was a freaking bat. The light comes back, and I was like waiting for the bat to return. Who knows? Who knows what happened to that bat? He is probably really messed up right now. But part of what made me think of that was also I saw a lot of clips from like Indianapolis Motor Speedway that they had a big like viewing party. There was a racing tie into it. I guess I didn't do a great job segueing it. But let's talk about your start to the season, Brennan, because it's been a few weeks since we last spoke on this show. The Xfinity Series, I think, has been producing, as usual, some of the best racing in NASCAR these days. And right now, in your first year with Alpha Prime Racing, you're coming off your second top 15 finish of the year. You're sitting comfortably, I think, 17th in points. I think that's what I saw, which is great for that team. Talk to me a little bit about your season so far.
Yeah, I mean, we've just had a really great start. We've gotten lucky a few times, but I think for the most part, we've just been able to execute really well regardless of the circumstances, and we've overcome a lot together as a team. But my race team has been giving me great handling race cars every week. I mean, we struggled a little bit at Richmond on the longer runs, which was why we made that call that so many of you watched, where we drove up and got second in the stage, so
That was
close to winning the
fun.
stage, which would have been awesome. Yeah, a lot of fun. I was having a great time. But obviously we had a big advantage on tires that run, but the points were crucial for us in making our day still be a positive net gain to the playoffs. So all in all, I mean, I think we're averaging like 18th in points, like on points scored. And we've really finished in the top 20 every single race other than Richmond. So I feel like that's been a big win for our team. I feel like we've been executing and doing all of the right things, overcoming, issues in the race. Even like this past weekend in Martinsville, we got caught up in a couple incidences, some that just were, there's nothing I could do in pretty much all of them. But we made it through. We repaired the damage. My pit crew did an incredible job, and then we made really smart decisions throughout the race. And I kind of knew that it was going to be a little wild in that last restart. I'm like, I'm choosing the bottom no matter what here, because I
Smart
think
move.
a lot of people are getting pushed to the top, and I'm
Yeah,
just going
did
to
you
stay
see?
here.
I mean, on the front row, Sheldon Creed, our boy, dove it in there three wide,
Mhm.
pushed everyone up. He going for that
He,
first win, but
I know he almost made it work too. He
yeah,
just got on the curb and he got loose. But yeah, I mean, I kind of had a really good view of that. When the big one happened at the very end with the 98 and my teammate, unfortunately, in the five, and some guys like they were four wide. Like I was
I
going
saw.
down the
Yeah,
front stretch and I was like bottom of three, and then I saw Seed go. I think it was I don't know who's, but someone went four wide, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, we are not. I don't know. Someone's not making it out of here. And then sure enough, yeah, there was
yeah,
people wrecked. And then I think I went on that last restart. I went from like 18th to 14th in one corner. So we just had a really good car. I mean, the guys have been doing an unbelievable job. And again, like I said, we've just been able to execute. And when there have been some things that haven't quite gone our way, we've been able to overcome them and still get those top 20 finishes, which has now put us in a position where I'm 25 points out of the playoffs. So
yeah.
we feel like we just keep putting pressure on those guys in the top 12.
Force them into more
And
mistakes, more
yeah,
four
and if
wide moves at Martinsville, and you are right there to strike. I mean,
right? It's just like if we can just keep putting the pressure on them and us continue to execute well and capture points every single weekend, we're going to be right there knocking on the door. It's going to be tight, but
yeah,
and we have to continue to be perfect. But we've been able to do that through the first start of the season here.
yeah.
So yeah, we want top 20s every weekend. But I think we've all been a little bit surprised, like how strong we've been. I haven't been, I'm not surprised. I get in the car and just drive as hard as I can every single weekend and let the results be what they're going to be. But I think we're starting to look at things a little bit differently and really want to try to make a push to be one of those top 12 guys. But it's
Yeah,
tough, man, doing
it
it
is.
on the budget that we're on. we're a $1 million budgeted team and we're parked next to guys that are running on 5 million bucks. So
That's the
I
thing
think that's
is,
something to be proud of.
yeah, I know coming into this year when you and I would talk on the air and off the air, it's, we talked about how top heavy the Xfinity series is. These even mid-pack teams with multi-million-dollar budgets, and that's just not right now who or where Alpha Prime Racing is at. So, just being top 20 in points at this stage in the year is an accomplishment, let alone
Yes.
averaging better than a 20th place finish, being 17th, knocking on the door of a provisional playoff spot. It's been fun to watch. It has. I sat up high in the stands during the Phoenix race in person after we did our show, and I think you ended up 19th. There was that big wreck you got a piece of at the end. Unfortunately, nothing you could do there. But before that wreck, it was fun to watch, man. You were up there racing hard with the colleague guys, with the Jordan Anderson guys, with Our Motorsports, like good teams, and you were slicing and dicing up inside the top 15, top 20. That was really fun to watch. I do have to ask, Brennan, you mentioned multiple incidents at Martinsville this week. Have you felt the wrath of Deegan Nation at all for that? Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. Talk me through
Yeah,
it.
I can tell you what
The
happened.
replay was iffy. I was like, I like Brennan. I don't want to like put it on him. I don't think it's his fault, but if I say that, people are gonna say, oh, you're just his friend. You're whatever. So I don't know.
The replay definitely didn't show all of it because it kind of caught this like really the second part of where when she actually got turned around off of my front bumper. But and I have a lot of respect for Haley. I've told her to her face many times. I've talked to her a lot, and especially even when she was back running ARCA, she kind of ran some races through Venturini. I was there the first time she ran at Pocono, whether she remembers that or not. But a lot of respect for what she does. But I've been trying to pass her the last couple laps, and she overdrove turn one and got loose, and she went up into the second groove, and I'm wrapping the bottom. So, and I got the 91 on my bumper, which you can see in the replay. He's like on
Yeah, he was
me.
close. I couldn't
So
tell if he maybe bumped you first. I could see you got up on the
he
curb.
did after
Yeah.
the third time we hit, which is ultimately what made her go around. But like I was on the curb, and when I got to her door, and you could see the donut on in front of her left rear tire. Like I was at her door, and she comes down, and I drove up on the curb even to try to like give her more room. Like I'm here. There's nothing. I can't. There's nowhere for me to go. And then when we touched. And since I was kind of like right there at her left rear, like our tires kind of like, I put a little donut right in front of the left rear, but we kind of like tire to tire a little bit. And when it did that, it kind of like jumped her sideways. Well, now I'm on the curb. So when I came off of the curb, because I'm like loose and on the curb, came off of the curb, we kind of then made another touch. And then she was like really sideways. And I was like, oh, there's nothing I can do. I have the 91 on top of me also. And then it just kind of like spun her really slowly around. If the 91 hadn't, gassed it up and tried to drive by us and would have just like, she's spinning out, maybe I'll just like, whoa, slow down a little bit here. I don't think anyone would have even gotten damage out of the whole thing, but
Yeah.
it's the way that it panned out. And they're just, obviously I feel bad that happened because I would never want to just like spend somebody out for what. I was just she missed the corner and I was on the bottom and I was there and I thought like spotter everybody would be like he's at your door and it just she came down, there's not anything I could do at that point. So yeah, that was a difficult situation.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna, I mean, there's nothing I could.
Yeah,
Nothing I could do.
I appreciate your explanation. I didn't see like a ton of people chattering about it on social media, but I did see it during the race, and I was trying to see a better replay and angle. And I figured, you know what, I'm gonna ask Brennan about this because I know when I talk about Haley Deegan on my show, she's got a lot of very passionate fans, and if I'm critical, I better know what I'm talking about because they will call me out if I'm unfair, which is their prerogative, that's what they're supposed to do. Just unfortunate all around there. But one thing is for sure, there was a lot more action in the Xfinity Series race Saturday night than there was on the Cup Series side Sunday afternoon. I want to make this quick, Brennan, but you're a race car driver, obviously. You've driven the next gen car last year, especially. What do you think is the first thing NASCAR should look at when trying to change the next gen at short tracks?
Yeah, I think now I have driven the car and I'm no like
Yeah,
crazy expert or
yeah,
anything like
I don't
that
want
on
to. I don't want
what
to put
would
this all on you. Like, oh,
make it
here's an
better.
expert. You know, like I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm talking about either. I listen to what other people say, and it's like, oh, the tires need to be this. Oh, the
Mhm.
horsepower add a 200 horsepower. I hear all these things. They all make sense to me in a vacuum. But then when it actually comes down to what's realistic, what should be the first thing NASCAR goes and tries, because we can't just redesign the whole next gen car. That's not realistic at this
Yeah.
point. So what is the first thing they should try? I guess I just want to hear your perspective, because you probably know it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't mean to call you an expert or put that kind of weight on your shoulders, but
Yeah.
you probably know more than I do at least. So I was like
I,
curious to hear what your take is.
Yeah, I mean, on my side of things, I just would really like to stop the shifting. I think they need to do something with the gear ratios or whatever they need to do to just be like, no, we're not shifting at Martinsville anymore because the shift is, and you hear the announcers talk about it all the time, but it's a huge crutch. I mean, you get in the corner, you miss it a little bit, you're down a gear, you drive right up out of the corner. So, and the next gens have bigger tires, they got a lot of grip. So, it's just, and the cars are so similar that you just can't get a lot of passing, and they're aero sensitive, and it is affecting the cars even at a place like Martinsville. It makes a difference. As you see, whoever gets the lead in the cup race just checks out. And then if
Yeah,
that person doesn't have a great pit stop or someone, or like Joey Logano taking two tires and now has the lead, he checks out.
yeah,
Literally, no one was going to get him until his tire was coming apart. Like there's
yeah,
no, if you can't shift and someone misses a corner a little bit, they lose their momentum. You're in the same gear. So the car behind you that hit the corner right is going to probably be able to get an advantage on you and drive beside you, which is what I would like to, I'd like to at least see them try to do something with
do,
that.
do you know? I know. I mean, I know this is the Cup Series, but like this last December, there were reports that they had like a new transaxle that they were going to test during the offseason test at Phoenix, and then they like scrapped it last minute because they got
Mhm.
busy with other things. Like, I don't know. Do you know like how easy of a change is that, or how easy would it be for them to at least test a new part that could then be, if it works, could then be mass produced and sent around the ground? Like, how
Yeah.
easy is that?
I mean, I don't think it's a super easy thing to do, but I do think they have these things in place that they're working on, and really it just comes down to them being able to manufacture the part and then make the
Yeah,
change and then go to get a team or however they want to do go test this at a track and collect some data. But so there is a little bit of a process there, but I st believe that NASCAR is still trying to fine tune these cars to make a better on track performance for the fans. But I think. We talk about it all the time. It's like, man, the mile and a half stuff is great, but
yeah,
it's kind of like we talk about this a lot. It's like, they basically made a road course car and now we're racing a mile and a half. So it's not really meant for that. And the racing is amazing. So we go to Bristol, we have a tire that's coming apart. Everybody has to manage it. They're dealing with it. Racing is unbelievable. So I think it's just like, you go to a road course with the next gen or like a place like Martinsville, Richmond. It's just like, man, it's like, they just drop a gear, drive away.
the car is
Same
just,
thing.
it's too good. It's
Yeah,
it's
the car's too good. I mean, it's the
yeah,
same. When I drove it at Dover, it was my first ever race of the next gen, and I was obviously a little nervous. You're going to race with the best guys in the world, and this is a car I've never driven before at probably one of the most intimidating ovals in the world. And I'm just like, all right, I watched the film. I guess I'm just going to drive it off into the corner to this point and lift and see what it feels like because I don't have a clue, right? And I drove it in there and it was just like planted, stuck to the track, and I just matted the gas. I was like, oh my gosh. Now it was very fun to drive. Like I got out and I was like all smiles because I'm like, this was one of the craziest stock cars I've ever driven because it's just so much grip. I've never felt anything like that before. But that also, everyone has that. So
yeah,
then it makes it much more difficult to race. And I think what makes really good racing right now, like what you see in the Xfinity series, is like basically no downforce. Um, Tires wear out. We beat and bang. We're fighting for positions, and it's creating a lot of entertainment. Now,
for sure.
I think I passed like 48 cars or something. There's a statistic that comes out that the teams get. So like I was like for
That's
me, I
fun.
was having a great time. I passed 48 people. I don't know. Who even knows if there's anyone passed that many cars in the cup race? I'm not sure, but it's just trial and error, right? You got to try stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you got to dig through it. And I think the fans know that too.
I think
And
they know that. I
eventually,
I think fans are getting impatient is what it comes down
yeah,
to,
they get it.
which
Yeah, I
I
get
think
impatient, but They will get there. We got there with the last car, and the racing was phenomenal, and everybody loved it. And then I know we changed to a new car, and everyone was like, "Why?" But it'll happen again. It's a
Yeah.
cycle, you know.
Well, fingers crossed. I like your optimism. I think there are a lot of different things they will continue to try. The most recently, it sounds like their focus and emphasis is on the tires. What can they do
Yeah.
with Goodyear to build tires that wear out? I heard Elton Sawyer, the Cup Series director of competition or whatever the title is called now, specifically referenced the first 30 laps of the Richmond race a week ago where they were on rain tires and said, how can we recreate that? And it's like, well, other than maybe turning the sprinklers on and letting the track get damp for 30 minutes, like hopefully there is a way they can do that, they can replicate that. So we'll have to wait and see. Brennan, before we bring in our special guest, Justin Haley, NASCAR Cup Series driver, recently made a big career move from colleague to Rick Ware Racing. Before we bring Justin in and talk about his racing career, I want to touch on a couple of reports from Sports Business Journal last week. It's never too early to start talking free agency, silly season, in my opinion. And I found this interesting. Again, this is focused on the Cup Series, but there's a report from Adam Stern that many industry executives believe Stewart-Haas Racing will look to sell one or more of their charters. And Stern specifically named Trackhouse, 2311, Legacy Motor Club, and Junior Motorsports as teams that are going to be most interested in pursuing an additional charter. So I guess I want to ask you, have you heard anything behind the scenes, at least on the Cup Series side? Like, how likely do you think it is that Stewart-Haas would look to sell, and how hungry are some of these teams out there to add to their portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely hear a lot of stuff in the garage. I think I definitely know some things that I probably shouldn't know, but that I do know. But I mean, I don't.
You don't have to
I
give us
think
specifics. Have you heard? Do you think there's a big deal coming later this year? You don't have to go into any specifics.
Oh, I think there'll probably be a couple by the end of the year
Ooh,
that
okay.
come out. I think it'll be more than that. But yeah, I mean, I think yeah, you hear about Stewart Haas. I'd be surprised if they sold two. I think it's probably more of a one type charter being sold out of from them.
Yeah.
I think the other three cars pretty much have some funding behind them. And they have some good drivers over there. I would be surprised if they sold two. I think there'll probably be another team at some point in there whose charters are probably for sale. And I think you'll see some Trackhouse in 2311 jump on those. So I don't who knows?
It's
I
interesting.
think yeah, it's super interesting, and I got to think if Stewart Haas does do something there, what makes me think about this a little bit harder is Cole Custer, right?
Yeah.
Champion, still literally in the threat to win every single race. He should be in Cup. I think there's no doubt of that from anybody. He's won a Cup race already, granted in the other car. Um, so if they do move a charter, okay, well, is there another Ford team? Is there someone out there like that? And then could they place Cole there as part of the deal? Maybe.
It's complicated because
You
we don't even
know,
know if Stuart Haas will still be with Ford next year. I mean, I
true.
think more than likely, I don't want to say more than likely because I don't have any insight on this. I just hear what other people have reported, and it sounds like there's a real question there. But yeah, to your point, Stuart Haas has, I even throw Riley Herbst in there. We know he has some support behind him, but he's won an Xfinity race now last year, and he's had his flashes this season. They've got 5 or 6, I would say, pretty good to good drivers under contract. And
Yeah.
if you go from 4 to 3 in Cup, I don't know. And then you got Custer, like you said, yeah, they're gonna have to start farming out some of this talent, or I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of question marks surrounding Stuart Haas. I feel like they're the big linchpin, sort of, that when that trigger gets when that gets pulled, a lot is
That's
going to
what.
start to fall into place.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear. Yeah, definitely sounds like there could be some major charter deals made sometime later this year. But it's so crazy to talk charters when, as of right now, there is no charter agreement past this season.
Yeah.
So hopefully that gets settled in the meantime. With that being said, Brennan, let's bring in Justin Haley, NASCAR Cup Series driver. Let's chat with him for just a little bit. I'm now joined by NASCAR Cup Series driver Justin Haley. Justin, great to see you. Thanks for being on Power Hour this week.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah. Ahead of a busy weekend at Texas Motor Speedway, I want to start all the way at your racing beginnings, Justin. I always forget how young you are. Like, I still like to feel like I'm young. I'm 26 now, but you're, how old are you? 23, 24 now? Like, I can't believe,
24, yeah.
and you've won a Cup Series race. You've won Xfinity races. You've won in trucks. You're in, how many Cup Series seasons are you in now? This is your third, fourth year full-time racing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how far you've come. But I'm rambling. Let's get to the beginning. Where and when did you first start driving race cars?
Yeah, up in Indiana, racing quarter midgets at Kokomo. Obviously my family had a little bit of connection to racing. My extended family, not any immediate members. My parents didn't. So, went to one of my cousin's birthday parties, and he had a quarter midget, and I drove it around, and thought it was pretty cool. So I went to the track with him the next time, and got my stepdad to get me a quarter midget, and it wasn't the best quarter midget out there. I mean, it was definitely one of the budget buys, but kind of put it together, had fun, and then obviously progressed from there.
Yeah, and how old were you roughly when those
Yeah,
conversations started?
9. So yeah, I was a
Wow.
little late to the game. I know. I got to catch up.
See, that still sounds young to me. I hear 9 years old, and what was I doing? I think I just graduated from coach pitch to kid pitch baseball at 9 years old. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really understand what you're doing until you're like 13 or 14, I don't feel like, or take it any kind of seriously. So I really didn't understand the concept of like what I was doing until a little bit later. So
Well, I know you got into the K&N series by the time you were a teenager, but I guess that's sort of my next question is when did you first kind of realize or think, hey, I can do this as a career. This is my passion. This is what I want my life to be, is racing. When did that kind of first hit you?
yeah, there was definitely a decision in seventh grade. I was on the road so much, and luckily the principal at the public school I was going to was a race fan, and he was kind of cool. So I got away with a lot of days, which you hear pretty often with young racers. But eventually got homeschooled halfway through seventh grade, and then yeah, from there just kind of went on the road. I was doing some CRA stuff, late model stuff up in the Midwest, racing at Winchester and Toledo and things like that, and doing some dirt stuff as well. And then I had an opportunity to race an ARCA car for Venerini for 6 races. And that was kind of the turning point. I was running, I think I was second or third in the championship points in CRA. They kind of asked me like, hey, would you rather have this championship or, get 6 ARCA races with Venerini? I was like 15, like literally just
Man.
15 at the time. So I went up and did a private test at Toledo. Again, felt like I was in a rocket ship. I mean, the first time you sit in a car like that, I mean, you are no idea what's going on. Yeah, and then we ran pretty good. BJ McLeod was my crew chief at
Okay.
ARCA and the Venerini stuff. So that always, people always think that's funny. But yeah, kind of 14, 15 is when I kind of made a decision. When I got that ARCA deal was when I moved to North Carolina and took it all.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned, your extended family, you had some connections to racing, but your immediate family, what did they think of you sort of on this journey? Like from this moment you got your first race car to, eventually getting these ARCA deals, like how supportive were they, or what was their, like, how did they grow into the racing scene with you, I guess is my question.
Yeah, obviously super supportive. My mom initially told me that, I went to her and asked for a race car, a quarter midget, and she said, "Well, if you can get your stepdad on board, then I'm okay with it." Because obviously she wasn't going to go do it.
It
So,
was smart to ask her first. You got to get her,
yeah.
on board.
So then, yeah, my stepdad was all for it, and man, he drove me all around the country. I mean, he had been to every race until up a few years ago. He drove me around and did my whole thing.
Wow.
I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters, so my mom was kind of off doing things with them and that. But yeah, me and my stepdad kind of moved down to North Carolina by ourselves, and then my mom was stuck in cold Indiana, and eventually made the transition as well. So yeah, super supportive. I mean, it's all you could ever ask for.
So talk to me about some of that ARCA stuff, K&N. You win the K&N East Series championship, right, in 2016. What was, I guess, a lot of folks in different industries, they always talk about that moment that, not that they necessarily made it, but like what's the turning point in their career, the opportunity that they got that sort of got them to where they are today. What do you feel like that moment was for you? Did it happen earlier in your career, or do you feel like it's happened later on, or maybe it's still to come? Like, when did that?
Maybe it's still to come.
Yeah, is that the answer, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously through ARCA and Kanan, I feel fortunate at the time when I was in the East Series. It was pretty competitive. That was when they were getting 40 to 60 cars at Iowa, and Dover was always slam packed, and I mean it was a legit series. I was racing against Kyle Benjamin for the championship that year, and a lot of good drivers. So yeah, after the ARCA thing, I got a deal with H Scott, which turned into H Scott with Justin Marks. And then we won a few championships together, or the championship together, and had a few seasons together. And then from there, we kind of did our own truck stuff. That's kind of when my Uncle Todd started getting more involved, was a little bit later, more just his connections than anything. I think it's pretty hard to jump into the NASCAR scene without them.
Yeah.
So I've kind of relied on him just more for introducing me to people and getting me in the door to certain places more than anything. So, and obviously his experience in the sport helped, right? Like he had been doing driver contracts and things like that. So, never bad to have on your side. So, yeah, then I did my first deal with GMS in the truck series, and, it's kind of took off from there. So, yeah, it's kind of been a good ride. I don't feel like I've hopped over to too many places, right? Like I feel like I was always been pretty steady with the team for at least a little bit. It's not like a year after year after year thing. So been fortunate enough in that sense.
Yeah, I'm sure that kind of stability and consistency is important for a young driver developing. Yeah, and that's kind of a good segue into your time at Colleague Racing, which is what I want to talk about next, because you won Xfinity Series races there. And I feel like for a few years there at Colleague, felt like their Xfinity Series team especially was just humming along nicely. It was you,
yeah.
It was AJ, it was, Ross was there. Like that just felt like a really fun stretch, I'm sure, for Colleague Racing fans. I'm sure it was fun for you as well. What made Colleague Racing a good fit for you, especially at that point in your career?
Yeah, I mean, when I first left GMS and trucks to go to Colleague, they had one top 10 as an organization. It was a one-car team, probably 17 employees, including, the front desk lady and all that. So I was there from, ground zero pretty much. I mean, obviously they had a few years with Blake and Ryan, but, when I came in is kind of when they really started taking it seriously and growing. Had AJ the first year do some part-time stuff, and then the second year Ross came on board. And as a 19-year-old kid, having Ross Chastain and AJ Allmendinger as your teammates, obviously it's never hurts. So yeah, the year I was with Ross, man, he was really fast, but he got eliminated pretty early in the playoffs, and I think finished 6th or 7th in points. And actually, that was the year I was in the Final Four. So I always tell him that I beat him that year in the same equipment, and he always thinks it's funny, but that's just race car drivers being race car drivers, right? So yeah, I mean, Colleague grew rapidly, it seemed like, and I'm not really sure what to say else, but I don't really think much has changed. It's just it was a good time for me to make a change, and obviously they put me in their Cup cars, and we kind of started that deal, and felt like we had some good progress. I feel like the first year of Cup with the next gen, the Chevys were kind of in a different zip code. They won a lot of races, and it was pretty easy to run 12th to 18th that year if you were in a Chevy. So I feel like the first year was good, and then obviously last year was a struggle kind of, and then obviously parted ways at the end of the season. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about Matt Colleague and that whole operation. I mean, obviously let me race for a long time, and I was kind of the brand ambassador for Leaf Filter forever. I mean, it was always the Leaf Filter car. I mean, it was just what it was. So me and Matt are still really good friends, and AJ as well. So yeah, it was a fun time. I mean, it's definitely a good chunk of my life that I'll never forget, and I'm thankful for.
Yeah, well, it was fun to watch. As a fan on the outside, that colleague, that tight knit community, it just seemed it was easy to root for, I guess. Well, before I talk about that your most recent transition to Rick Ware Racing, you kind of touched on it there, but that transition from Xfinity Series to Cup, right around the time the next gen car was introduced, I think at the time there was a lot of talk about like, hey, this is the right time to put young guys in the Cup Series because this is kind of a reset for everyone. The veterans, can the old dogs learn a new trick, so to speak? It's ground zero, level zero for everyone. How did you feel transitioning to the next gen? Did you feel like the playing field was a little more even, or were you still, you're a young driver, these are the best stock car racers in the world, like how challenging was that first year? Maybe how overwhelming was it? Or maybe you were fully prepared, you had a good team around you. What was that first year like with the next gen?
Yeah, and I mean, if you remember back, the next gen was a year delayed. So
Right.
I initially I had a 2-year Xfinity deal, I think, and then the whole obviously COVID thing happened, and we had to. There was no reason for colleague to jump in a cup for a year with the Gen 6. So we actually, I mean, I delayed it a year, I guess. And then that delay year, Spire let me drive their 77 car for majority of the season. And granted, it was, you know, not top tier equipment or A motors or anything like that. It was still a good experience. So by the time I had gone full time Cup, I had already pretty much a season and a half under my belt. And then, yeah, you put the next gen car. I think it was a perfect time to transition. I don't think that there was any better time to do it, really, especially for a new team. I think it was just everything you could have ever pictured it to be. So, yeah, I kind of had a filler year there where I ran, you know, every Xfinity and every but 4 Cup races. I mean, it was a busy year every week. I
Yeah.
was doing both, and luckily at that time the cars were identical. I mean, the Cup cars had a little bit more downforce, were a little easier to drive, and had a little bit more horsepower. But you could jump back and forth with them like it was nothing. And then now last year I did those Xfinity races for college because they wanted me to, and I mean, even at like Daytona, I was like so lost with how different they are. So, yeah, I think it was a good transition year. I think it was about right time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's interesting. Well, then yeah, let's talk about your most recent move. I think you surprised a lot of folks last year when you announced that you would be moving to Rick Ware Racing for the start of 2024. Why was that move the right move for you at that time?
Um, I mean, you're just looking for something different, right? I was at a point where I felt like I just kind of plateaued to a point with respect. I don't feel like there was a clear path to winning races where I was competitively weekly winning races. And obviously, you sign with RWR, and I mean, that's not kind of your forward thinking thing is to go out there and win races. But I do feel like my runway is longer here. I feel like there's more opportunities down the line. And, having Robbie Benton, Tommy Baldwin, and Rick himself, believing in me and supporting me and allowing me to make decisions and just kind of guide us to a good point. I think it's something I take pride in. Right, I feel like that if I got in this car and could do kind of the unthinkable and be quick and be fast and maybe not get the results, but at least surprise a lot of people, then it would probably do more for me than just kind of status quo where I was. So I believed in Rick, and I still do. I feel like they're putting a lot of time and effort and money into this, and it's definitely had a lot of growing pains. And we still are, even Martinsville. I mean, it was a lot of issues, but that's just kind of part of it, right? I think it's probably harder than I expected it to be, but at the same time, it's easier in some places. I feel like the cars drive really well. It's just a lot of like weird stuff that you just don't think
Mhm.
about, like pit road speeds and just crazy stuff that makes a Cup team super super dialed in. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like we've had respectable speed this year. I feel like we've surprised a lot of people, and I think we want to keep doing it. I don't think we are necessarily like over the top proud of what we've done yet, right? Which is good. We're continuing to push, and we're going to continue to push. So I'm proud of it. I think it's a cool little journey for me, and it's been fun so far.
I mean, I think it's a game of inches. Obviously, you keep growing, keep getting better. But I mean, Bristol, I know Circuit of the Americas, the result isn't going to show how well you guys ran. But I mean, you've had some really solid top 15 runs. And I think the point you were getting at a moment ago, you know, you go to Rick Ware Racing, a team that historically has not had a lot of success in the NASCAR Cup Series, but has clearly improved, especially in the next gen era. But you get behind the wheel of the 51 car and run top 10, top 15, people notice. Like that's something that we've not seen that car do in recent years. So it certainly, I think, has turned a lot of heads this year, seeing what you've been able to do. One I've noticed is Mark Martin, you know, NASCAR Hall of Famer. He's tweeted about you. I was watching, he was on a podcast the other day, and also, you know, said you're one of the young drivers he's kind of watching. He really likes what you've been able to do. So how does that feel, you know, being a young driver, knowing that there are, you know, influential, important people in the industry, seeing the results, even if the results aren't great, I guess seeing the performance this year, like, is that sort of what your goal was this year? Is you want to get people's attention? Because if so, it seems like, you know, 8 weeks into the year, mission accomplished.
I mean, obviously you want to, you know, attract as much attention, good attention to yourself as possible.
Yeah.
Luckily I got really close with Harvick at the end of the year last year. And, you know, I've heard some good things that he said about me too. So, I mean, it's just a dream come true, right? Like you grow up watching those guys, and you dream to even meet them, right? And then you find yourself in conversation with them, and kind of on a path of you know, racing and doing things. So, yeah, you know, I will say, I think my job title here, you know, I feel like my job title at college was to race cars, and that's what I did, right? I showed up, raced cars, and I think this move to RWR will make me a better person and driver, because there's so many more roles that you have to undertake, and you have to be a team leader, right? You have to somewhat make sure things are done, and just the way you want them. So, you know, I think I've taken a lot more under my wing kind of this year, and I kind of like that, right? I feel like it's been fun, and I think I find more pride in that than maybe just showing up and running laps and going home.
Yeah, I can believe that for sure. I know when you made the deal, or you made the announcement that you're going to Rick Ware, you mentioned specifically Brad Keselowski being one of the guys there to kind of recruit you. I know Rick Ware Racing is close to RFK, physically at least close to RFK. Do you still work with Brad? Is he someone you see and talk to? Is he kind of a mentor in any respect this year?
Not necessarily. I mean, we help each other out. You know, I'll say our relationship is that of a satellite team. It's pretty status quo. Obviously, I dealt with it at RCR in college for 5-6 years. So, I mean, it's about the same. You know, obviously, Brad wants the best for us, and you know, I think for us at RWR, we kind of want to prove to RFK that we're capable, and that we're useful, and that they can rely on us. So, you know, I've done a good bit of sim work for RFK and things like that, pretty standard stuff. But when it comes down to day-to-day stuff, I mean, it's not like, you know, me and Brad are texting back and forth or anything. It's just we're kind of down here doing our own thing. It's all RWR employed people. You know, some people, you know, will have a good run and people will be like, oh, it's an RFK car. I can promise you the only RFK part is that it was built on RFK's campus, because our shop is on their campus. So it's Rick's guys. I mean, it's the same guys that have been working on Rick's cars forever. Obviously, we hired Chris Watson, who's a stellar crew chief and a go-getter, and a big part of our team now. But it's RWR. I mean, there's really nothing that has changed. I've almost wanted to do like a shop tour so people can like understand, like it's actually, you know, it's impressive. I feel like it's impressive. I feel like we're the only Cup team at this point that doesn't have direct manufacturer support. And that's huge, right? I mean, there's been a lot of little things that we just don't get or have, or things that you would think we would have, but we don't, just because of where we're at. So, I mean, it's not like we're doing anything wrong. It's just kind of the steps of the ladder, right? So, you know, I feel like, again, we've impressed ourselves, but I don't think we're, you know, proud to the sense of, you know, continuing to keep going.
Yeah. Well, hey, I love the idea of a shop tour. More content is good content. That would be
Yeah.
would be awesome. But no, I think you've been impressive to start this year with Rick Ware Racing. It's fun, like you said, to be a big part of a still young, still new team building something from the ground up. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, but I'm sure it is rewarding when you run top 15 like you did at Bristol, for example. I guess I have one final question, really, and I have to ask this. It sounds like you're pretty locked into what Rick Ware Racing is doing right now, but there's always talk about charters shuffling around. Silly season starts in January 1st, runs through December 31st. So do you, at your point in your career, at this point in your career, do you keep one eye on sort of the silly season landscape, or are you right now as focused as can be on what you're doing with the 51 team?
Yeah, I'm just focused on doing my job and going as fast as possible. And whatever happens, happens. So obviously, as a race car driver, you're always focused on your team and your organization and trying to improve it. But yeah, just going out there doing my job, and whatever happens, happens.
Absolutely. Well, it's been fun to watch so far. Justin, I really appreciate you spending some time this morning. Great insight into your racing background and this journey you've been on from GMS to Colleague to Rick Ware. Just in the NASCAR ranks alone, it's been fun to see you rise over the past few years. Really appreciate the time. Good luck this weekend at Texas, and good luck the rest of the season, man. We'll talk again soon.
Cool. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
A huge thank you to Justin Haley for spending some time with us. Or I say us. I know, Brennan, you weren't able to make it actually for the interview itself. A little breaking of the fourth wall here. I know you had some sponsor obligations this morning that sort of conflicted with our recording schedule, unfortunately. But I did see you have a new paint scheme for Texas this week. Is that what you were recording for? Is that what you were shooting this morning?
Yeah, I'm making some content that I think you guys are going to really enjoy or think is funny. At least I hope you think it's funny, because I think it's
I'll
funny.
Laugh. I'll give you.
Yeah, thank you. Send me a haha of something. I have Alpha Prime Bites brownie car this weekend. I'm running at Texas. I'm super excited about it. Obviously, it's phenomenal. If you guys haven't tried it, you should go to the Alpha Prime website and get a variety pack and tell me which one is your favorite. We got the brownie car this weekend in Texas. I'm super excited about it. It definitely stands out well. It's like pink and purple and awesome. It's got like a delicious chocolate brownie on the side of the car. So I was staring at it today in the shop, and I was like, man, this car just makes me hungry. So we're super excited about it. And also, to top it all off, it's my birthday this weekend in Texas. So it's like a double
on race day. Win. Is your birthday on Saturday?
No, it's Thursday.
Oh, well, okay. Well, happy early birthday, I guess.
And it's home for me. I'm going to Texas, which is, I grew up racing there. I've always really wanted to win on the big track. I've won at every track there. The dirt track, the 5th mile, the road course in the infield, the little Legends car track on the front tracks, all of them except the big track. So I would really like to knock that one out of the park. Maybe we can get lucky this weekend. Texas is crazy. There's a lot of crashes there. It's chaotic.
Great point.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited about it. And I can't thank, obviously everyone at Alpha Prime enough for the support, belief in me. But and obviously the start to this season has been so great. So we just want to keep everything rolling. And who knows, man, when we get the brownie car in Victory Lane, it'd be pretty cool.
I'm going to be sure to swing by your pit box or hauler or something during the weekend, pick up some, hopefully I'll have some samples out there. I can.
We have some samples. Come by. I'll give you one. You're going to like it, though. You're going to get addicted. It's going to be a problem. It's blowing up on TikTok, man.
That's awesome.
Also, if you're on TikTok shop, guys, go buy some. You get some over there too.
That's awesome. Well, there's worse things to be addicted to than some delicious brownies. I love that. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun weekend for me as well, because my fiance, I'm getting used to using that word, as I'm sure you are as well, Brennan.
Yes.
Her family is coming to this race this weekend, the Cup race, I should say. I'm not sure they're going to make it to the Xfinity race. I tried to move their schedule around, but they're at least going to be there for the Cup race. This will be their first NASCAR race ever, so I always enjoy showing new people who are genuinely interested around the world of stock car racing. So I'm really hoping they enjoy their experience. Should be a great time. What do you look forward to most racing at Texas, Brennan? Because I think for both of us, it's kind of was our home track for years.
Yeah.
Even though we both kind of grew up several hours away. Texas is a big state. What do you look forward to most about racing at TMS?
The food,
That's true. I did see I think I
the
saw on
food.
Google Maps. I should pull it up. I saw they replaced the Torchies in the infield with a Fuzzies, I think.
I don't know about that, but I'm definitely getting some kolaches, man. We
Yeah.
don't even have kolaches in North Carolina, and it's just like such a bummer. And so that's usually like the first thing that I
The
do.
food options right around the track are pretty great. I mean, you obviously have a Buc-ee's right there. You got a lot of
Mhm,
fast food. You got your Whataburgers, your Raising Cane's all
yeah,
right there. But even outside
all
the
the
track,
classics.
you don't have to go far to find some good Texas barbecue as well. So it's,
I know. And the Tex-Mex for me too is
yep.
like I get a little Mexican fix in when I go, and that I always enjoy that. Mexican food's probably some of my favorites. So I'm excited about that. But also just being, it's home for me. I got a lot of friends and I got a lot of family that are coming to the race, some people that are camping out that always come to this race every year and support me. So that's really cool. I get a few extra cheers when I
Always good.
race in Texas versus like, this past weekend at Martinsville. I think I just was like not a one like clap even for me. So for what it's just like the how it is. But so that part of it's always fun for me. I feel like I get I have a lot of support from my home state. But I guess it's really just me and Chris Busher. Chris and I have been racing each other since we were single digits. So
That's crazy.
yeah, and it's crazy that we would both come from and race against each other as kids and both kind of be here. We've talked about it before many years ago when I was running Cup full
Yeah.
time. But
He'd be a good guy
um,
to get on this show as well because there's not a lot of Texas drivers in the top ranks of NASCAR these days.
there's not.
Even I feel like even historically speaking, I mean, think about the Labanis.
Mhm.
Um,
I
he,
raced at the same quarter midget track as the Lebanis in San Antonio, which is
he,
kind of also a weird thing about me. But it was always fun. They always talked about them. They had old pictures of them. There was a main picture in like the little like clubhouse there where like I think it was Bobby, it might have been Terry that had like wrecked really hard and like went through the wall at San
wow,
Antonio. They had like pictures of it. So I always remember that as a kid for whatever
that's
reason.
super interesting. Yeah, no, it's such a big state. Obviously, I mean, sports are such a huge deal here. You know that football is a massive deal. I'm just surprised that there's not more elite racing prospects, I guess, so to speak, that have come from this great state. But those who
Yeah.
have all been very successful. So it'll be great to be rooting for you this weekend, this Saturday in the Xfinity Series race, Brennan. I'm looking forward to Sunday as well. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm kind of glad to be away from short tracks for a week or two. We've had a lot of short track racing, and on the Cup side, it's just there's still a charm there, but it's not as fun as it used to be. So I just
Yeah.
can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually looking forward to seeing a
To
Cup race at
Texas.
Texas Motor
Well,
Speedway.
Texas has been really crazy the last several years. I mean, even on
It
the
is
Xfinity
unpredictable.
side, we start going through the data as ourselves preparing as a race team, and I think there's like 52 cautions in the last five races.
That sounds about
It's
right.
insane. So, our game plan is a little bit different than some others headed into this weekend as we're, in this points battle pretty tight. So, it's all about being smart and avoiding the trouble and being careful on the restarts. Restarts are just always
Be
wild at
careful.
Texas.
Turns 1 and 2, sketchy as all hell.
It's
I don't need to
sketchy,
tell you
man.
that.
No, I'm pretty much choosing the bottom every restart.
Yeah, yeah.
If I choose the top, it's because there's like six rows that I might gain. Okay, maybe. But for the most part, like I'm taking the bottom and just trying to be smart and careful about our decisions all day and maximize our day. And then we go into Talladega, which is also going to be nuts. And
Yeah.
we have Dover coming up. So yeah, I mean, they're all really good tracks for me. So we really want to capitalize on that and try to continue to stack points. But I'm excited to watch the Cup race as well. I'm excited for Talladega to see what happens. I know in the 500 we had a lot of guys, saving fuel and guys complaining and talking about that. I'm interested to see what happens at Talladega coming up and
Yeah,
what
that's a good
that
point.
looks like and what happens at the end of that race. I don't know. Can we get a surprise winner? I'd like to think so. I mean, we've had some surprise winners at Talladega on the Xfinity side the last several years. I feel like, there's been a little bit every once in a while. Well, really, I guess two out of the last couple of surprise winner. But so I'm excited to see what happens there. I think Talladega is always just a really fun, great, exciting race, lots of chaos, and then you get down to the end of it, and it's like I don't know who's going to win this thing. So we'll see. Hopefully, us. So that
Yeah.
would be great. Get locked in the playoffs and then we can focus on some other things and try to get our cars better, you know?
Absolutely. It's going to be a fun few weeks of racing. Brennan, it's been great to do this show the traditional way once again. Good luck to you this weekend. Everyone out there watching or listening, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform, be sure to leave us a comment or a question either within the platform you're on. Leave it in the YouTube comment section. You can tweet at us. We're both on social media. Leave a question, leave a comment, because we would love to address it or answer it in our next episode. We'll be doing this again here in the next couple of weeks, and again, hopefully later this year we'll get to do another one of these shows in person, so stay tuned. Those have been a ton of fun. This was a ton of fun, Brennan. I guess that's gonna do it. I forgot how to close these episodes out. It's been so long. But I guess see you at Texas in a couple of days.
I'll see you.
Happy early birthday.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll see you at Texas, and thank you guys for listening. Keep listening, please, and send us some questions, and we'll try to answer them.
Absolutely. And send us guest recommendations. Who else would you like to hear us talk to in the future? We've got a list, but we could always add to it, bump people further up and down the line. Feel for sure. We want you guys to have plenty of input on what we do here on this show. But this has been fun, Brennan. I will see you here in a couple days. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Power Hour. Take it easy, y'all.